Brett Buffington with our sister station from Houston joins us live in Pascagoula. And Brett, we've been watching you throughout the night here. What are the conditions like right now?
Let me tell you how this changed over the last 2 hours. When we got here this afternoon, we're in a parking lot out on a point. It's like a park, if you would describe it that way. There's a hill protecting us right here off to my side, and it's kind of blocking a little bit of the wind. That hill was covered with people around 5 o'clock this afternoon. When the first wind and rain started, those people went to shelter, many of them telling us to stay safe because they were going home. That is where you need to be tonight if you're along this part of the Mississippi, Florida, Alabama Gulf Coast, because Gordon is on its way onto shore. We're not far from the northern eyewall of this storm now. It's just along the border of Mississippi and Alabama. Already we're seeing winds sustained between 15 to 20 miles an hour and gusts higher than that. We were just talking about 18 miles offshore. There's a weather monitoring station. Within the last 30 minutes now, that measured a gust at 63 miles per hour, so well over the tropical storm force strength. In the Florida-Alabama side of this storm, they have been getting hammered for the last couple of hours, and now the brunt of that rain and wind and the force of Gordon is on its way here to Pascagoula, to Jackson County. I want to tell you, emergency management officials here, they have certainly put out the warning. Tonight, 60-plus people are in 2 different shelters further inland. They were in places that were likely to flood or people who would likely need help during this storm. Tonight here where we are just off the Mississippi Sound, it is raining and it is windy, and we are expecting the conditions here to get worse as that northern eyewall pushes on the shore. That should be happening within the next hour. For the last hour, we've been talking about how conditions were going to go downhill. We probably have about an hour left of that, but we are getting those strong wind gusts that come with the outer feeder bands of a tropical system. That's what we're watching happen now as we watch that northern eyewall. That will be the brunt, and here comes one of those gusts. That will be the brunt of this storm making its way onto land. That will be the punch this storm pushes here. It'll push that storm surge up. Again, we were talking about how the good part of that is that this is going to happen as the tide is going out, so the storm surge not expected to be as bad as it could be. You remember back in October of last year, Nate, that made landfall during high tide and brought with it that 11-foot storm surge. We're not looking at anything like that, but certainly wind and rain is not what this area over here needs. The ground is wet, and they are concerned that trees will come down tonight as this wind continues to blow, and that will cause issues with transportation and with power. Guys?
Brett, fortunately or unfortunately for you, you're our wind gauge out there as you're standing in it. It definitely looks stronger than it has all night long.
You know, you're talking about how close that northern eyewall is. That's really going to be the punch of this storm as it makes its way onshore, and that's what we're beginning to feel. You know, you have this big feeder band in front of this storm that looked very disorganized a couple of hours ago, but now you have some formation. We watched a little bit ago as you could kind of see an eye forming, but you definitely can see, I'm sure as you've seen on the radar, that northern eyewall, and that's really what's going to slam into here as the storm begins to make its way onshore just to the west of where we are. But you always talk about that right front quadrant of any storm, and that's where we are pretty much at tonight. As the storm makes landfall in the next hour or 2 hours or so, we're going to be right there. We're likely to see a tornado watch issued for this because that's what we've been watching to the east of us back in the Florida Panhandle, where they've been dealing with this storm for much of the afternoon. Tornadoes, pop-up tornadoes with any kind of tropical system are always a chance, but then there's also that flood watch that's in effect here tonight because of the amount of rain that's expected to fall as the storm makes its way onshore. 12 inches in some spots. That is a concern for flash flooding, especially when it's dark outside like it is right now. A lot of people go to bed while these kind of storms happen. Make sure if you're going to bed and you're anywhere along the Gulf Coast tonight that you're staying with your cell phone, that it's charged, that you have your weather alerts turned on. If you have a weather radio, make sure it's turned on. But you can see the conditions out here. They're not the kind you want to come stand out in like this. Thankfully, we have a little bit of protection where we're standing from a hill right here beside us in case there was debris. The wind here very strong, and the rain, it is falling.
Brett, a lot of folks here along the Gulf Coast were hardy people here, and the threshold for what is dangerous and what is something less serious. Have you been able to talk to people along the Gulf Coast, especially in your area in Pascagoula? Have you taken their temperature and their gauge of how they're feeling about this storm here? Because obviously we've been waiting for the last 28 hours or so for this storm to form. What are they saying along the coast tonight about this storm?
You know, I think in communities like New Orleans and communities like Houston, where we have dealt with major hurricanes like Harvey and Katrina, people along the Gulf Coast respect the weather, but they take it with safety and concern anytime a storm like this happens. It goes to show that 60+ people have taken the word of emergency officials here in Jackson County and gone to shelters. Along this parking lot, I told you, as soon as the first bit of rain and wind started, people went home. We don't see people driving through here. The police have been through a couple of times just checking to make sure that we were okay, but there aren't spectators out like there were as the sun began to set and the rain began to fall. People went home telling us to be safe out here because they were going to take shelter. That's where you need to be tonight. You don't want to be out driving around in any kind of conditions like this. It's dangerous, and we were talking about flash flooding and storm surge. When roads go underwater at night, it is hard to see, and that is dangerous, and we've seen time and time again when people get out in flash flooding, it can cost you your life. And again tonight, we're very concerned. Emergency officials here in Jackson County, they are very concerned that trees will begin to fall with this wind because of the saturated ground. Also another concern, if you're out on the road, trees falling in front of your car, it is a bad combination. It's math that doesn't add up in your favor. So tonight, if you're along the Mississippi, if you're along the Alabama, and even into Louisiana, if you're along the coast tonight, just stay home, watch it on TV, and stay safe.
Thank you so much, Brett. That's why we have you out there, and you know, we're going to be keeping a very close eye on this as it continues to move inland. So thanks, Brett. We'll check back in with you again in just a little while.